Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice. This movie is certainly getting a lot of mixed reviews, but I went into it with an open mind. And I was really hyped up for this movie when I saw the trailers. When I first heard about it, I was against almost all the casting. I was like, this is going to be a horrible movie. It's just going to be crap. But then I started seeing the trailers, and they really started to win me over for the most part. They did reveal a little bit too much in one trailer, and it was just like, you've pretty much shown the entire movie. But I went into this with an open mind, and I was hoping that it was going to be good. I will say that I don't agree with a lot of the negative reviews of this movie, but I won't say that it's the greatest movie of all time. It's not the greatest superhero movie. It's okay. This basically pits Superman and Batman against each other. Two of the biggest heroes of all time, the two biggest DC heroes of all time, against each other. And my biggest thing that I was worried about in this movie was how they were going to pull this off. They kind of show you a little bit in the trailers, but it makes complete sense. It makes sense for why Batman decides to go after Superman. And I like that, because that's the main thing. If you're going to have two superheroes against each other, why would they be fighting against each other? For the most part, it worked really well. And I have to say that Batman, my God, we haven't seen Batman in the DC cinematic universe, and this was the perfect way to introduce him. Because it introduced his character, and it introduced why, at the same time, he's going after Superman. So it accomplished two things at the same time. And I didn't really like Man of Steel. Some people are saying that Man of Steel is the better movie out of these two movies. I disagree. I think Batman vs. Superman is a lot better in terms of the action, the entertainment, and I had more fun with this. And another thing too is that Man of Steel, there was a lot of parts in the movie where I felt like, I can't get invested into the story or what's going on, because they kind of just shifted all the time. They just kept going from one scene to another, and the flow was just completely messed up. So the pacing was horrible in Man of Steel, in my opinion. That still does happen in Batman vs. Superman, but not as much. And what's going on screen is more interesting. The first half is a little bit different, and a lot of people are saying that it kind of doesn't make sense that they have the first half that might bore people, and then the second half is kind of completely different and takes away everything from the first half. But I thought that it was actually transitioned really well, and it made sense when one thing happens in the middle that transitions into the next half of the movie. It made sense. The problem is that there's so many scenes in this movie where I was going... In Man of Steel, I felt that the flow and the pacing was off. But in Batman vs. Superman, there are scenes that I was going, what the hell is going on? I had no clue. No clue. I had to go on Wikipedia and read the summary of the film for one scene that happens when Batman is in the Batcave. And because I had no idea what the hell had happened in that scene. I knew that it was part of something, but I didn't know... It's really hard to describe without spoiling anything, but I had no idea what the hell happened until I read on Wikipedia, and I was like, all right. It still doesn't make sense to me. But that was just really out there. Other than that, though, man, Ben Affleck as Batman, he freaking nails it. I won't say he's the best Batman that we've had. I think that's probably still Christian Bale and even Michael Keaton to an extent. But I really enjoyed his Batman, and I loved the Batman costume. Both the version where he's just in the regular costume, and also the, like, fuck you Superman costume, which is just badass, and it finally has the white for the eyes, like in the comics and the TV show. So I thought that was really cool. And the way that they used Batman in this movie, he really felt like a comic book character in the sense that he was not mystical, but like the cops go looking for him at one point. And it's just, if Batman was real in a comic book world, this is exactly how he would be shown. And the way when he takes on Superman, also just awesome. I loved that battle. I also really liked Henry Cavill, whatever his name is pronounced. He was really good in this. And in Man of Steel, I never had any complaints with him as Superman. And in Batman vs. Superman, I felt even stronger about him as Superman. I really liked the casting for those two characters. Lex Luthor, which a lot of people did not like because it's Jesse Eisenberg, and he is going for an eccentric Lex Luthor. He's not menacing at all in the sense that he's not a figure of power or authority, but he wants to be. And a lot of things that I had that a lot of people have with Lex Luthor, played by Jesse Eisenberg, is that it's too much. And I thought As Lex Luthor, I don't really know the character that well, so I didn't really care. I felt that if they would have called him something other than Lex Luthor and just like he was a villain with a lot of money, that would have made more sense. But so I didn't mind him being eccentric and over the top and all that. There's a lot of lines that I like that he says that actually made me laugh because he's just so out there. So I was okay with that. The problem that I had is that we really don't get the feeling of why Lex Luthor hates Superman. Like, to an extent, they give like very little background as to why he hates him. There's a lot of things in this movie that it kind of just goes along with it. You're like, okay, well, this makes kind of sense, so we'll go along with it. The pacing isn't as bad as Man of Steel, but I find that the story doesn't make as much sense, if that makes any sense. It's really hard to describe because sometimes I'm like, yes, this is awesome. This makes complete sense. And what I'm seeing on screen is freaking awesome. And other times I'm just, not really. And then the last half of this movie, and especially the last act, I thought was just phenomenal. I loved every bit of it. And I loved every bit of the action scenes. When near the end of the movie, it's like, just end the movie. And they had a few corny things, and I'm like, that's sloppy writing. The things that they're saying, they should have worded it differently because it just came off wrong. Like they just thought a little bit more about some of the things that they say near the end of the movie and throughout the movie as well. There's a few lines where I'm just like, that seems like lazy writing. So I hope that the next time that they make another DC movie, they really focus on the script, because that I think is a key to this, and also get along with a little bit of the pacing. Although I have heard that apparently the movie was supposed to be 3 hours, and they are actually adding in an extra half hour into the final cut when it comes out in July for the Blu-ray. So I mean, maybe it'll make a little bit more sense, but it felt like it was a little bit off. However, I still had a ton of fun with this movie, and I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. So it's not the greatest superhero movie. That's one of the lower ratings that I've ever given, but it's definitely, in my opinion, better than Man of Steel, and not as bad as everybody's saying. So I think if you're a Batman fan or a superhero fan, I think you'll enjoy at least parts of this movie. Anyway, thank you all for watching. You've bearded in. Beardage.